Fáilte gan thula duine son na híana noch, gan na chiad órad de Coinneach Stiùbhart, tap alive son na hían. I'd like to welcome you all to this inaugural lecture of Coinneach Stiùbhart and to thank you all for coming out on this cold January evening. This occasion is an important milestone in our fledgling Coinneach. It was apparent for a long time that from the bud to bara, Stiùbhart was alone in not having an historical society to record, archive and exhibit the precious history of the people, the culture, the environment, the language and the development of the area. Following a plea in Lochatua News in round about March 2018, a steering committee was formed in July, and we now have a hard-working committee of all ages, from their 20s up to several decades more, with a varied range of skills and experiences. And the young ones teach the older ones, and the older ones teach the younger ones. The fact that we are here tonight is testament to the enthusiasm of this group. We aim to continue the work of the previous Coinneach, which disbanded in the 80s. And if there is anyone here tonight who has anything of interest from that time, please let us know. We do realise that sadly some items from that time have been lost. We are really grateful to the general public for their support, people at home and far away and wide, and also to our local councillors for their support. And if you are interested in helping us in any way at all, please get in touch with any of us. And the committee, it might be useful for you to have a face to our names are, well, I'm Anna. There's Anne MacArthur, who's disappeared into the kitchen. Mary Graham up there. Anne Ramsey, Anne Stand. Cathy McInnes, also in the kitchen. Mary Ann Graham. Ian Murray, who's on our committee from afar in Liverpool. Kenny McKeever, Coinneach McAgoin, and also on the committee, but who are missing tonight, are Donald I. MacDonald, who's working in Skye this week, Seamus Bommy, who's on some important football mission, Donna McKeever, who also is on the committee and is working from afar, and Norman Smith. It's really appropriate tonight that William Stewart, Macvik Roel Harragan, Senior Lecturer at Solmorostig, is presenting our inaugural lecture. William was brought up in Colúrach, and many here tonight will remember his father, Dol Alistair, who was born and brought up in Col. He was head teacher of Stiùbhart from 1990 to 2000, and in that time his great interest and knowledge of local history played a huge part in broadening the activities in the school and also of the activities in the community. His knowledge and expertise in genealogy were invaluable in many community projects, including the original Coinneach. I now have great pleasure in welcoming William to present his inaugural lecture. Súile Ash agus Súile Rord, Eachdraidh Stiùbhart, and Naum Richach. Looking back and looking forwards, the future of back history. Thank you.
So, as I said, it's a real honour for me that I was asked to come and do a short lecture here at Coinneach Stiùbhart Back Historical Society, the inaugural meeting. Well, I'm the son of Dún Wallister, as you heard, and he was the head of Coinneach Stiùbhart when it was founded first in 1985, and I think that the Coinneach has been asleep for 20 years, and it's coming back again. And it must be that history runs in the blood, because I'm a teacher and researcher of history of the Gaels in Scotland and abroad as well, at Solmarostig in the Isle of Skye. Tonight, I might come back and talk about the history of Back, but tonight I want to talk about the history of history societies, the Coinneach, the Rome Coinneach, the Coinneach and the historical societies, that in general, the other ones, about what we have to learn from the Coinneach when they were created first in the 80s. And what they went through, and what the challenges and the hopes and that there might be before us now over 30 years afterwards. And I think it'd be suitable to do that, to be thinking about these questions, but that perhaps we won't make the same mistakes that people did 30 years ago. As I said, my father was among many people in the middle of the 80s who founded Coinneach for the district, and who helped with keeping it going. I have a big memory of the time he would spend in his study, researching and writing, lots of papers all over the place. But there was a social side to it as well. They had fun, there was conversation and yarns and laughing very, very often as well, keeping the Coinneach going. And I remember as well the interest and the action and the enjoyment and the pride that the people of the Coinneach had in the project in which they were taking part. And I remember as well the hard blow it was when Coinneach Stiùbhart lost the funding that they had, and they lost the location they had, and they lost as well a huge archive of information that had been gathered over the years, and especially the many cassette tapes that they'd recorded over time were lost, maybe 50 altogether. Interviews and stories and news with the people of Back, maybe 3 are left. An archive that today is without value, is very valuable. Memories, and we don't have them today, invaluable. So when the Coinneach went down, there wasn't a lifeboat, there wasn't an exit plan. And that's the reason that tonight, I hope you'll forgive me if I have a look at Coinneach in general, how and why they started, what they gathered, what they went through, the different strengths and weaknesses they had, and what might be before us today, when the world has changed, when the situation is so different. In some ways, maybe we should start looking back in history so that we can have a successful Coinneach this time. So when I was thinking about this speech, I was lifting a lot from a dissertation, an MA dissertation written by Janet Hunter at Aberdeen University, Coinneach, the development of local history societies in the Western Isles, 1977 to 1991. At the end of the 80s, Janet spoke to each Coinneach that was in existence at the time. She wrote down their stories, history of the Coinneach, and she did judgment and thought about the different situations they were in, and the campaign for Coinneach in general. And hers is a really valuable work, and I'm indebted to her. Since I was invited to speak tonight, I've been reading around the subject, and I've learned a lot. I've learned English words such as voluntaristics and place attachment, and in a book about local history I read the words. A recent international symposium on the subject showed that local history seems to thrive when the past is insecure and debatable, and it was in a very dangerous situation, but also a hopeful situation for the people of the islands when it was first thought about to establish Coinneach at the end of the 70s. The islands were suffering with economic troubles, cultural troubles. Crofting was going, fishing was going. The effect of the outside world, especially the effect of television, was wiping away the culture of the islands. But there was a voice, or voices, that the islanders had, they hadn't had before, especially through Coinneach, that was founded in 1975. The Coinneach, as you remember, founded Project Muintir na nGileán, a project for the people of the islands. I don't know if you remember the project, with funding from the Van Leer Trust in Holland, with help from the University of Aberdeen. And as many of you will remember, it was reliant on training projects in the community, education in the community, and nurseries. And that was what the project Muintir na nGileán was reliant on. And their aim was to put confidence and self-confidence again among the people of the islands and among the communities in which they put a special focus. There was the district of Ness, and Annie McSween was ahead of the practical schemes in Ness, but it became clear to her in her mind that there was another side needed, and that was the side of culture. Now, you need to realise that there were many people at the time who did not agree at all, thinking this was a waste of money on culture and on Gaelic and things like that. But on the other hand, there was another group of people who did have an interest in their heritage and songs, poetry, the history of the district, genealogy, and who had pride in the struggle that the crofters did and their districts, and the place that the Ness men had in the Great War. And as such, the Coinneach was founded, a group that had a perspective from the parish and district itself, and that was at the centre of the district. They weren't reliant, weren't dependent on experts from outside, and they weren't doing work for people on the outside either. Everything was coming from the district, and they were aiming on the district as well. And they had a philosophy. Also, and this is important, for the first time technology was to hand that was cheap enough that people could buy it. Cassette recorders, photocopiers, and even computers as well. So first, Coinneach did something very simple but very effective. They put a phone book together for the people of the district, where there were nicknames and family names just as much as the official scholarly names in English. And that was a service from the district based on experience in the district that you couldn't get in the world of English. That was very useful for each house in the district every day. And they also went out and they recorded a series of taped interviews on different subjects that were related to the world of the people of Ness, fishing and crofting and other subjects like that. And they spoke to the people who knew most so it appeared in the districts. But then they were in a bit of a puzzle, because then they were thinking, what are we going to do now? We'd done the interviews, what will we do now? And they had to find a way that they could speak to the people of the district in general and bring them into the Coinneach. And it was photos that they used. Everybody had photos in the district. They were interesting, they were attractive, and they had good stories related to them as well. And people were comfortable speaking about them in Gaelic. And they started doing copies of the photos, and in the end they did an exhibition, and that exhibition was very successful. And that was the social side of the Coinneach. So Coinneach was an example for other Coinneach that came afterwards. They put together, the Ness men, they put together a Roll of Honour for the Níosis that were involved in the Great War, They gathered news of the district that had appeared over the years in the Gazette. They gathered information about the district that appeared in the censuses, and they gave training in research work as well. And there were other sides. It wasn't just information and news and photos that they gathered, but also they started gathering things that today fill a museum that the Coinneach has. And the projects as well, they had bigger projects, such as doing up the old mill in Dell and the Coinneach, the Jubilee so well. And as you'd expect, they did a lot of work on ancestry and names as well. Now it's interesting to do a comparison with the next Coinneach that was based on Tongue Historical Society, Coinneach, and that was quite unlike the people of Ness, because there was one focus that the people in Tongue had, that was a history book to be published about the town, about the district, from the time it was settled with people from across the island. And they put a survey around the entire village, looking at the history of the families, looking at the social history of Tongue, work on land and sea, the church, education and the wars. And the book came out under the name Tongue, the Story of a Lewis Village. And you might know that book, I hope. It's a real work, a real excellent piece of work, an elegant book, and it'll last. And especially because we need to remember it was put together before there were computers or the internet. But the book was so good, and I'm sure the work was so heavy that nothing else came from Coinneach. If you understand, they divided the chapters between each other, and when the chapters were finished, they put the chapters to each other so they could get more information. And at the end, I suspect that every one of them thought there was nothing else to say. And when Janet Hunter was researching at the start of the 90s, she asked Peter MacLeod, who was in charge of the Coinneach, in charge of the project, what else could the Coinneach do? And he said, what about a book Tongue 10 years on? It was as if the history of the village was all in the book, and they didn't have anything else to say. And it might be that the town of Artanoch was just small enough that one very good book, very useful book could be published about it. And the people of Ness couldn't do that, or the Uig people, or the Stiùbhart, the West Side, or Point, or Back. They couldn't publish one book that would do the job for the entire district. So it might have been that the Coinneach was too small, the Historical Society was too small. And I was going to say as well that Tongue is maybe too close to town, too close to the big town. And the closer you are to Stornoway, the more difficult it is to keep a Coinneach going. It might be more difficult to keep a feeling of community going. Something you need if you want a successful Coinneach. And around the same time there was Sandwick Historical Society, Coinneach Hantavik, in the same situation. And you should be aware as well that there is a difference in meaning between Coinneach and Historical Society. I'll speak about that at the end. They mean something different. There wasn't, as it were, an empathy around Sandwich, and it wasn't the same kind of community. And the Coinneach, the society, looked at things that happened around the place, such as the loss of the Iolair, or particular places such as the Moss End Hospital. And it might have been that the people nearby didn't feel the same tie to the place or to the others who were staying there. They weren't rooted in the place. Returning to Tongue Historical Society, we see the dangers involved in putting one big project on, taking in everything that's related to that community. Because as soon as you say that project is finished, what else do you do? I don't know if problem is what we should call it, but that's the problem that I think that Tongue Historical Society had. What I'm trying to say is that big books that are based on a lot of research are very useful for the community and for the researchers, but if you don't have a strategy beforehand about what you'll do afterwards, after a big heavy book being published, that's prone to putting a limit on more research and on the Coinneach, the society itself. So there are different societies. There was Tolsta. They were very fortunate with what there was of poetry from the village. And there are different interests in different societies, depending on the culture and the type of history that's in the district. For example, Ness and Uig, they're full of stories, they're full of songs, they're full of stories about those clans that were at one point staying there. The Morrisons, the Macaulays. And that has had an effect on the work and style of those societies. And we can put the impact of specific people as well. Coinneach was created with great help from Morag MacLeod from the School of Scottish Studies, and it can only be that she had an impact on the number of tapes about stories and songs that were recorded, things that are just in the books of poetry that the Coinneach are publishing. And again, Dr. Finlay MacLeod was deeply involved in the West Side Historical Society, and perhaps his interest in psychology and characters from dramas that left them with so many recordings about the biographies of people from the West Side. And it's certain, as you'd expect, that struggle and argument as well between the societies and sometimes among themselves would have an effect. I won't say too much on that, but it looks like competition with the Níoshi, with that left a society in Uig being formed so quickly, and they were very, very competent. In 3 months they put out a roll of honour for the Uigiochs, and with the money that they raised, a Coinneach was founded, the society was founded. Just to end this section, we can think on how fortunate some of the societies have been with events in their district. The society in Carloway and in Barvas, their shows are very, very important and useful to grab people's attention, to show what they've been up to sell magazines, and to make sure everybody pays their subsidies every year, and that's very important as well. And if I may, can I say as well how important BBC Radio na Nílan was for the societies. It was a medium for a stage and an audience to be given to the people from different groups, where they could speak to other islanders in their own language, what they'd been up to and what they'd found out, and it gave them an opportunity to speak to people on the other side of borders. We can turn to what the societies have done for the societies from which they've come, and for the island in general. At first, they gave us practical skills that are very useful today. Because many of the societies were funded with public money, government money, they needed to learn how to fill the official forums, how they would deal with bureaucracy, and that's a very important skill, and it still is an important skill today. And another thing, that's computers. I suspect in many places in the island that it was the people from the history societies who were the first in the district to work with computers. They were researching history, old items, and in Gaelic as well, and making use of the most modern technology and the most advanced technology, and they learned skills and confidence from that. And I'd like as well to return to the important point that Janet Hunter made in her dissertation, and that's about the philosophy that should be at the heart of Coinneach, of history societies. The philosophy was created and founded first, I think, by Coinneach Historical Society at first, and they were the first history society, and they got enough criticism from people in their own district who thought there was no use, and people who weren't at all comfortable with people spending their time spending public money on old things and old history and Gaelic, and taking money from things that should have money spent on them that were relevant to the modern day, such as fences between lots, new fights for the sheep, and roads out to the peats, services and developments that were good for the community and good for the economy, things that would last. The people of the Nes Coinneach had to give an answer to this that would confirm and affirm the benefits of their work. They needed to bring those critics to their own side and at the same time think hard about the work they were at. The interviews, the presentations, speeches, publications. Why were they worth it? What were the best ways to handle them so that the society could help the people of the district? History was what was before them, right enough, but living history in which the community was rooted. History in which there was fun, in which there was advantages, that brought generations together, as we heard there, old and young, and that gave confidence to people and some pride as well. Pride in their own history, in their own culture, in their own language, and it was a utility that would earn some money as well. The people of Coinneach fought the battles and they won, and it might be that they did the difficult work in bringing in the earth for the first time, that doing the first work, and the work they did was enjoyed by the people of the district, and many more got involved as well. But when some of the other history societies came, perhaps some of them weren't thinking too much about the reasons why they were researching history, or why it was founded, Coinneach was founded in the first place. They weren't fussed about philosophy. They were just wanting to conserve old things and keep them. And sometimes it wasn't too much difference what the community in general was thinking about it. And Janet Hunter tells us from her own research work, the Coinneach that didn't have that philosophy at the heart of their work, the philosophy that it was incumbent upon them to bring the community with them, and the language and the heritage to be put at the middle. The ones that didn't do that didn't last as long. They might have put in long hours for funding from the Manpower Services Commission schemes. They didn't spend the same amount of time in the communities, speaking to the communities and telling them what they were up to. And when some of them grew tired, that, as is likely to happen, when the funding went, there weren't any new people or younger people who would take their place. And that was a loss, because in the situation we're in, I don't think there's a better medium to tie people to an area, to a place, to a community, than giving them an opportunity to learn about the history of the place that they're in. And it's not just me that says that. I've been reading a lot of articles from universities where psychology and human geography, where they present to us that if we feel tied to a place, that we belong to a place, we're more likely to be involved in community activities through getting, and that will encourage community participation to know more about the area. And the place and community are meaning something for you. You have a tie to the place. Today, in many ways, the situation is more challenging than it was in the 80s, especially when it comes to the state of the language and culture that belongs to the community. Things we had commonly, and things in which the society did a lot of work at first, a lot of that we don't have today. I don't think it'd be possible for any Coinneach today to put something out about the sheep markings on the ears as they used to do in the 80s. And they could publish a phone book, right enough, but it would be very different in its way. A lot of longer numbers. And the rules of honour are put together already. The histories of the lots, of the crofts are put together. But there are opportunities, especially with how computer skills and research skills are more widespread among the communities than they once were. There's an awful lot of work already done on the Gaelic dialect of Back district, and with the knowledge we have, we could put together a very elegant looking map with of the district and of the dialect. Maybe it would make a good Christmas present for someone later on this year, and that map could show how the places mean things to people, and to the people of the district. And that's important because very often academics, like myself in the universities, especially related to history of the Highlands, we don't deal with places in reality at all, but we deal with abstract places, abstractions, looking at them from afar, through statistics, through figures. And that's good if you're trying to compare a place on one subject, but it's not good to explain why something happened or why something didn't happen. And to do that, we should look at real people in real places. And that's the view that comes from looking at one place, such as the district of Back, and looking at local history. And most commonly, again, historians in universities, they looked at just one side of the story. Political historians, social historians, economics, things like that. Religion, culture, folklore, and dealing with them separately. But when it comes to local history, you have an opportunity to bring everything together and to look at, to place that history in the people's context and the context of the land, back and forth through the era's total history, as historians call this, and it's very, very powerful, very important. And in the modern day as well, it's easier to do cooperation with other people. I'm thinking about archaeologists, as the Nishi and the Ugi have done in very successful projects. I'm thinking about the Islands Museum and the Islands Archives, and academics as well in Lewis Castle College and Solmorostig. And I'd be very happy to give support and help to the Back Society, Coinneach Stiùbhart. And I'd like to go back to lectures about real history, such as when people left Lewis first, emigrants, the first emigrants from Lewis. But I would like to end by going back to the philosophy. And that's the thing that's most important, the most important things that you take the community with you. And that what you do as a community comes from the district for the district, not for tourists and not for academics. A project such as Eachdraidh would be a good starting point for the programme of any history society. And I was talking earlier about how I feel there's a big difference between a community on one hand and historical society on the other hand. Philosophy is a foundation stone of a community. You work for the community and for the school as well, and for the next generation. No, it's not just a hobby, it's not just a leisure pursuit, but you take part voluntarily helping the communities and representing the communities for the outside world and having fun while you're at it as well. One other thing I'd like to say, that's that history is like a process. When we're researching history, we see how quickly a district can completely change with every generation. The lay of the land, the way of life, and we all know it's still changing. And if we just think that there wasn't but the traditional world on one hand, the old world and the new world on this hand, the world of our parents on one hand and the world of the children on the other, we've lost. But if we accept that there have been changes from the beginning, that there will, and that there were and there will, then that'll help when it comes to looking at the changes that there are in the district of Back and many other districts across the Gaeldon today, because there were big changes in the eras that went, and we, the people, are still here today. And that's it. I hope that was all right. I'm just thinking it's so important to think about what's before us as Coinneach in the future, but no, that the same thing doesn't happen as happened before, when everything was thrown out, and that still hurts to today when I think about it, and the work that people did, and as well the good support it got from the district. We should build on that foundation and do the same thing again. And I'm very much looking forward to being involved with the Coinneach and also hearing what's going to be going on in the months that are coming. Thank you very much. I was asked to give thanks to you tonight. I want a drink. Or do you want a drink? I was asked to say thank you to you tonight, and certainly Coinneach had a script from you, but not from me. And certainly it was very interesting, and I didn't think that it would go past so quickly, and I didn't think it was past at all. Your father and your grandmother would be very proud of you, seeing you here tonight speaking on this subject and doing it in their language, the language they have. Because if your life had taken a different turn, and this might have happened historically, you wouldn't be able to, and that in and of itself is so good to see. There was one or two things you said that people tonight, with different links in different ways to the old Coinneach. You named Peter MacLeod, that did the book. Well, his daughter Cathy's here tonight, and she's on our committee, and we're very, very happy about that. And you also mentioned computers. Well, there's one here tonight, and she was the one who brought computers into the Back Historical Society. I saw an advert in the Sunday Times about an Amstrad 285, and it was Marianne who was the first person who used them for our Coinneach. And in a short time she was up at the castle showing them all how they would use the Amstrad 825 and the Amstrad 9512. And so good to see you here tonight. We're honoured that you came here tonight, and we're so thankful that you did that. Are you going to take questions? Yes, any questions with any thoughts, opinions or answers? You heard him say publicly tonight that he would come here every year for another lecture with subjects already, and he has them all already, and we'll give 100,000 thanks to for coming here tonight and giving a lecture. Thank you very much.